Hi and welcome to Reliance Australia. In this week's episode is the third and final instalment of how to make a doorway in an existing wall. So let's get into it and I hope you enjoy it. So I'm taking this piece of wood off the floor now. So I've got my jams in, but the studs in throwing. But so what I'm doing, I actually use the recip saw to actually cut through here. Then I've used the oscillating tool to just get down nice and flush, because just the way the blade is angled on the recip saw, I start cutting into the floorboards, and I didn't really want to do that, so I cut through as much as I could. Start using the oscillating saw. Now I'm actually coming through from the side as well, using the oscillating saw, but also using just a hammer and chisel to knock some of it out as well. So I made some progress today. I have got my triple plate up now, and as you can see, it's supported by this, the door stud. It's also screwed into the main stud, which goes up to the top plate. I've also got these little supports between the triple plate and the top plate, so any forces that are coming down are going to be taken up by this triple plate and supported by these extra two studs. So even though I've taken two studs out, I've replaced those two, so it's not like there's any less. And you may see some gaps in here like that, but that's actually just a little bit of noggin that's actually not connected to the other stud, believe it or not. But these ones are, so I've connected those ones through, put a bit of packing there. Also see I've put some packing here, because as you come through, you can see there's a gap between the sheeting and the new stud, and that's because the old studs were slightly wider. Noting the house could be anywhere up to 70 years old. The timber is not exactly the same size, and if you have a look at that stuff down there, that's what was there. So it's not milled. It's definitely not dressed timber. It's just, well, it's definitely being milled, but it's not dressed timber. Whereas the pine framing that we use today is very finished. So I've had to put some packing in up to 7mm in some places, because that's how much gap there was, or difference between the old studs and the new studs. So I've packed this side, and interestingly enough, just because the way life is, actually just because that's the way I put the stud in, I've also packed this side as well. So I think the next stage may be to put this floor plate in. So that'll raise that little bit of that gap there. But what that will also do is help me when I'm getting the gaps with the door as well. So that may be the next one now. So we can see where I've taken the frame out here. I've actually cut that down as done in a previous shot. So what I now have done, I've got another piece of wood. It's about 20mm. It's dressed, so it's probably only about 18mm in reality. I've cut that down the sides, and if I can do this one-handed. So that's now what it looks like. And then if you come down to a floor level, it's just slightly above the carpet, but I've rounded the corners off, so no one should be hurting their feet on it. From the wet area, it's just a little bit higher, and I'll be able to seal that off. So that'll be good. That'll be nice there, and I can even stain that up so you get a nice entryway into the office. What I'll do now is just we'll pre-drill 6 holes and sink and drill it in. So I'm back up the shed. I'm up to the point where now I'm going to start putting some sheeting around the frame of the door. You can see a little piece cut out there. Basically that's 2 pieces. So on the bathroom side of the wall, I don't need a real lot. I just need, like, one side's 90mm, the other side's 40. So I've had to cut that out pretty finely. I haven't done a lot of sheeting. I've done a little bit in another room. But I wasn't too sure how I'm going to go cutting those little pieces out, but it's come out reasonably well. So the method I did for that was really just mark it up, then cut it this side of the sheet with a Stanley knife. So back up in the shed again, and what I have here is I guess door jams, door framing. Now I did buy a pre-made kit. Unfortunately, that pre-made kit was designed for, you know, modern timber that's been dressed, which is 90 by 45 generally, or 90 by 35. You see some of those pieces there. And so that means that the door frame, door jamb here, only needs to be 110, because by the time you get your 90 and you put a piece of 10mm sheet at the side, you need 110. But because I'm renovating an old house, my studs are bigger than 90mm, and I need to go out to about 120. So what I now need to do, because I can't buy 120mm, I need to dress this down, just take off about 18mm, 15, 18mm, I have to measure it up exactly. Trim that off and cut it to length. So this is what I use to cut that little bit of 18mm off and keep it straight. So I've got my portable workbench, I put a bit of 4x2 in there, and that mounts then the straight edge onto the door jamb. So the door jamb's there in pink. To support the straight edge, I've also got another piece of timber underneath to keep that nice and level and flat while I cut. Progress update. So I've got the sheeting around the door, I've got the door jambs in. Yep, a bit of a gap at the top, but I can fill those. Got the plate on the floor to cover that gap between the tiles and the carpet. So what I'm going to do today is hang the door. Now, I do have the hinges already on, because I did forget to take my camera up to the shed while I did that. But look, to be honest, I did a very easy option. I picked these lane hinges. They are an easy fit, so you don't need to rebate them in, which makes it very easy. Just mark it, screw it. So that took me probably about 5 minutes. And that's probably 4 minutes longer than most people with any skill would take. So about 200 from the top, 200 from the bottom. I've put them on, and now I'm going to try and hang my first hinge door. So I started just by putting the top screw in. That allowed me to just take some weight off the door, allows me to adjust the bottom hinge. Now what I used to hold the door up was one of these little extra hands by Worth. That was excellent. I also had my daughter help me just balance the door, so basically that just went under the door, lifted it up. Now for the first one I put in the middle to lift the whole door up, and as I got to the bottom I actually put it open the corner just to tilt it a little bit as I was going through. So that was good. So, but once I've closed the door, the gap on this side where the latch will be, it's obviously going to be a lot greater than this side. Look, I've got a bit of a gap at the top, and I'm happy with the gap at the bottom, because I'm not against having gaps at the bottom. That's not the end of the world. But for this one, I do have about a 10mm gap. So what I'm about to do is take this off and just put some 5mm shims behind it, and just to bring it out, just going to shim it out a bit and pack it out. So I've got some 5mm packing pieces, so I'll be able to do that, bring it out, and that should get a nice even gap all the way around. I just bought a pack of window packers. They're 75mm long. It's a mixed pack. I think I've got like 1, 2.5 and 5mm, 10mm, 4 point something mil packers in there, and so I'm going to use some of those. Just going to screw them onto the stud, then put the door jamb frame over the top of it. So these are little spaces. Should come out a little bit, shouldn't they? They are actually at countersunk as well, so the screws are sitting nice and flush. I just screw them in. So then what I did, I put the original hole that's in the main door stud in the middle of that gap. So when I put this door frame back on, just use the original screw holes, and I just went back into that same spot. So you can see through the gap here, maybe I might have to get this side. Sorry about the angles there. You can see that spacer in there, and I've put about 5 of them through. Now that's just pushed that door out an extra 5mm, which is not a big problem, because I'll put some architrave around that. Now the test, oh look at that, so it's a nice even gap top and bottom. Now look, I say for some people that might not be such a big deal, but for me I'm pretty stoked, because this is the first time I've hung a door, And traditionally I don't get things straight and upright, but this time those door jambs are nice and vertical. The studs, actually the studs that I put in, I spent a bit of time making sure I got the studs vertical. I picked some timber that was nice timber to start with, so it's reasonably straight. Now I know I do have a bit of a gap at the top, but that's not a big problem for me because I'm going to put little stoppers around that anyway. But that gap is nice, I'm happy with that. So I think the next job I got is actually to fit a door handle. So I'm going to try out one of these Ryobi door lock installation kits. Look, yeah, first again, fitting this on, apparently just goes on. We'll see how we go, I suppose. So I've just got the installation kit fitted. You just mount it using a couple of screws from the hardware for the door anyway. So what I've done, I started off using that, but I don't need a hole that big. I only really need about a 12mm hole. So I use that pilot hole to start the hole in the middle. Being careful not to let it get to the hole saw part, because I don't need a big hole in the door. And so now what I'm going to do is actually, now what I am doing is I've got a 12mm drill bit there. I'm going to now drill through there. So I've got the hole that I need. So I've drilled all the holes. I've used the Ryobi kit. And I have to say that was brilliant. Really simple. Now, I'd say I was a bit hesitant to buy it in the first place. But I thought, for $30, what could go wrong? If I didn't like it, I could always, it wasn't a huge expense. But look, that's just made life so simple. Highly recommend it. Look, at the kit actually came with everything that I needed to do the job, plus a whole heap of other stuff. So obviously it's also set up if you want to do deadlocks and all that sort of thing as well. So for $30, great piece of kit. All I've had to do now is just rebate in through here. There was another tool that did that, but because I had no idea what that was for, I thought, why do I need two of the tools? I need one, but that would have been good. But anyway, hammer and chisel. It's called carpentry apparently. So that originally I put a 12mm hole in here because I didn't need to put like a massive big hole there. Because this is the type of handle I have, so it's very thin and narrow. But I did need to increase that, even though the spindle went through. It just wasn't quite big enough, so I've just got a 16mm longer drill, as you can see down there. Finished product, now on, screwed in, got that the right way around. Sounds obvious, but I did put it on back to front the first time. I'm actually quite excited by the fact that that works. It's the simple things in life. So now I need to put that latch under there so it can hook in there. So I'm just going to chisel that out. I will drill some holes into here to make that hole big enough for that little latch tongue in to go into. So we'll see how that goes. So you see some lines here on the frame. Basically I just drew lines either side of where that latch is going in. Actually that works already, I haven't got the latch plate on yet. So that's good. Perfect. So what I did, I used that 16mm auger bit, drilled a couple of holes. As you can see, the little starter holes there. Chiseled it out a little rebate. Looks pretty messy until you do that. Then all of a sudden, it looks like poetry. So the next step is to pre-drill some holes, then screw it on, and the door should latch close for the night. All done. Gaps are reasonably okay, even across the sides. So I've just put these door stoppers in. Essentially what that does, I'm not too sure really. You're not meant to be hitting them with the door, but it just stops the gaps between the door and the, I guess, the door jamb. So I've got those all the way around. Bit of a gap up the top, but look, I'll be able to silicone those up. And look, pretty happy with those. So I had to take this one off after I put it on the first time because it actually had quite a bow in the piece of timber, which I didn't really check, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting either. But now I'm actually going to be putting on the architrave. But what I do need to do is notch out, because I've got to drop down onto the floor, and then I've got this step up onto this board that goes between the two rooms, to transition in between. So now all I'm going to do is notch that piece out, and to be honest, I'm just going to use my sliding tool. You can see I've just marked it out. So it's only about 18 mil up and a few mil in, but that's the next job. So what I'm doing, I'm actually putting my nails into the timber, into the trim first. So that's just one less thing, but it's not going all the way through, but it just makes life a little bit simpler. So I'm not trying to juggle holding the piece of wood up, trying to get it square and straight, and trying to hold nails, and then trying to hammer all at the same time. So this is the bathroom side done. Pretty happy. Got the architraves on. I still need to do trims in the corners and down the bottom, but like, I start work tomorrow, so this is going to be quite functional. It's going to seal it off from the main noise and hustle and bustle. So I have the right and the left side on now. Have it checked in over the board on the bottom. Door's not closed. There we go, door's closed, makes it look a bit even. When I was looking through that camera there, I thought, oh, there's a bad gap. But it's not, the door wasn't closed properly. And look, the gaps are pretty even around the door, considering my skill level. So what I'm going to do now is measure this top piece across. So what I did last time, I measured from the peak to the peak, and then I also measured from the inside to the inside, and just double check that when I measured it out before I put it on the drop saw. So there we have it. Look, that's at the stage that I wanted to get to before tomorrow. So the door is framed, it's got the architraves around top and bottom. So I know I still need to do a lot of work in the plaster piece and just the cornicing and finishing off, but structurally it is all there, working well. It latches well. It's got these little stoppers on it. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. So for me, that is job done. So there you go, another job is done. And look, to be honest, I've been using that doorway now for several months. I'm sort of looking at it as I'm talking, and look, I am over the moon with the way that has turned out. It's solid, it latches. It's actually probably one of the best hung doors in the house, and I'm not too sure how that happened because I installed it. But look, I am really, really happy with the way it's worked out. And just the result of that, and also means that the access, I don't need to come in through my daughter's room anymore to access my office. It's just been a really great help around the house as well. So look, I did take a long time to do it, and look, if I'm going to provide any advice or recommendations, look, just take your time. You can do it. Like, I have never done anything like that before. That is, you know, a major piece of work, especially when you start talking about taking out, you know, some of the support work in the internal wall as well, and making sure all the beams take the structural load on the top. So look, that was a big piece of work, but I'm really glad I did it, and it has turned out really, really well. So I'm exceptionally happy with the way it's turned out. So look, if you've enjoyed that, please give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, that would be greatly appreciated, because it does help the channel to grow. And if you've found that useful or know someone that may benefit from it, please share it with your friends as well. So until next time, I'll see you then.